Welcome to today's Attaining the World's Beyond review, and we are going to be concluding chapter 22. We started off last week, spiritual development. So, for the benefit of those of you who may have not watched the previous session, let's just summarize what we conversed about last week. For spiritual development to take place, we know, based on what Dr. Laitman have told us, that there should be a spiritual bath. That is the first thing. If there's a spiritual bath, there's nothing to develop. But we also know that through the lens of creation, that there is only one body. The body that we see as individual people do not exist in the spiritual world. What exists through the spiritual world is one body, and this body has a quality to receive for itself. So, in other words, it's self-love. And nowadays, people talk about self-love all the time. So maybe the human consciousness is coming to a point where we begin to recognize that this is the truth of what was created, self-love. But we know that for an individual to exist within the system, it should have a distinct quality, a quality of spirituality, which is altruism. If a person is altruistic, now they have a spiritual quality, and then they become an important part of creation because they have managed to develop something beyond their natural quality, which was self-love. This week, we're going to kick off talking about the development process itself, because Dr. Laitman, in the rest of the chapter, went into great depth to talk about all different facets of the development that takes place. For a start, one of the things that kicked my attention I went back and read this several times, was the very fact that the spiritual bath itself has a lot of challenges. So we know that one of the challenge that was mentioned is that by default, we don't know ourselves. And the reason we don't know ourselves is because we started from creation, where we were altruistic, connected to the Creator, and then descend into this physical world. And the qualities that cause our descent into this spiritual world, we do not have all the knowledge of that. So because we don't know exactly what are these defective qualities that we have in our consciousness that brought us down here, that we have to now change, we are in the dark about how to ascend. Next challenge for us is the fact that we are uncomfortable to accept that we have defective qualities. Who wants to believe that we are wrong? No, nobody wants to see themselves as imperfect. Everyone believes they're perfect. The other person is imperfect. So when there's a problem, everyone points a finger at the other, but never at themselves. So that is a big of a challenge there, because to be bathed spiritually, we have to own our own qualities that are defective, and we are not able to do so. That is concealed. The Creator created us in such a way that if we were to be given all of this knowledge right there about our defect, we will be ashamed, we will feel inferior, we will be shattered, we will not even know where to start, and this will be a big problem for us. So we are designed in such a way that we're going to look at our problems and we point fingers at others, and this is something we have to uncover ourselves. And the third, but not least, was the fact that the Kabbalists already know how we were descended here, and they know that the only way forward to ascend is to love others as we love ourselves. There's a problem. We love the people in our home. We love the people that are of the same qualities as ourselves, that sound like us, that look like us, that eat the same food as us, and study maybe have the same as us, but we certainly do not like people who sound very foreign or like a stranger to us. But for us to ascend, we have to love everyone, and that's the challenge for spiritual development. Ultimately, we have to embrace all of this. If we don't, like a Kabbalist, we are going to stunt our own development. So, Francis, I'm going to hand over to you at this stage.
Thank you, Sheila. Yeah, to take it off from where, I mean, it's like you've summarized, most of the chapter. But I will just zoom in on the fact that he sums up, he makes a sentence that sums up all the issues, when we say egoism, all the issues that comes up. He said, Dr. Laitman says, the entire nature, the entirety of human nature can be summed up in just one word. And that word is egoism. Egoism. And a person's, unique challenge is accepting, as you said, accepting that they are wrong. Because a person can never come to the point where they themselves can say, okay, this is my fault. We always want to point fingers at other people. But if one is going to go through spiritual development, then one has to come to the point of accepting that 1000% I'm an egoist. In other words, I am swallowed up in self-love. Anything that I look with the lenses of self-love. What will benefit me? What is the common denominator here for me before I take any step? So for us to go through spiritual development, he mentions the issue of contraction and expansion. We go through contraction and expansion. What is that? He says the Creator purposefully designs situations for us, individual situations for us that we go through that leads, to the contraction of the self, the ego contracts, whilst the portion of the Creator above that is inside us, which is our life, goes through expansion through such circumstances. But a person like myself who is not advanced or enlightened will immediately point fingers at other people. Oh, it's her fault. It's he who is doing it. I'm okay. But what I see this chapter drawing our attention to is that everything that we go through in this life is purposely designed by the Creator. He puts it together, he engineers it to cause the self, the egoism, to contract, and for that matter, for the part that is of God above, which is in us, to expand. And if we can really see this and gradually work with him, cooperate with him, and work with him in that way, then we're going to ascend the rungs of the ladder of spiritual development. Tuso?
Thanks, Francis. You've summarized it well for us. That point, that piece of the Creator inside of us, it keeps on getting expanded by us seeing the changes in us that we want more and more, seeing this ego growing to the point where we feel like, as Francis have said, that someone has did something to me, or certain events that I come across, they cannot be from a good God who has created this wonderful world. There must be something else or someone who's causing them. As a result, we get caught in pointing fingers and asking ourselves, if is there a God out there? How can he let this gruesome thing or this despicable thing happen, and so forth? But at the end of the day, it is said in this chapter that everything, even the most gruesome or despicable thing that we can think of, everything does come from him. And as we see it with our eyes at this level, so we might see something is bad to our skin or is good and so forth, yet we do not see it with another sense, the spiritual sense or the eyes of the Creator, the way he sees it at that point in time. So everything that he brings to us, he brings it to us only to expand our vessel, our desire, so we can have a desire big enough to handle him. Because if he were to appear before us now, our desire, our cup is too small to can handle the Creator or the source of life. Yet he brings this expansion in us, this contraction and expansion, to the point where we will be ready to can handle him. Imagine the pleasure so big that if we added up all the pleasures in this world, it will just be a grain of sand compared to the pleasure that we can get in spirituality. So he keeps on growing our vessel or our cup to the point where we can begin to look for him. And as we know, there is a saying that says we only go to the doctor when we feel sick. So if I feel healthy, there's no need for me to go to a doctor. So he keeps on bringing this challenges or trouble before us so we can go to the doctor, and he is the greatest doctor of them all. So he pushes us towards himself, or he pulls us towards himself. So it's a very good book. I hope you have shared it with all your friends and family. If not, there's a great opportunity to share it. Teles?
Great, thank you, friends. I don't know what I thought myself now. What do I add to this? But as you were talking, I realized, of course, it's all about how we relate to the Creator and whether we allow Him to have a space within us. And the space within us is created by this contraction that we try to do of the egoistic desires that we have. So we contract that, we kind of cover it, and we would like to do the opposite of receiving, which is to bestow, but we can't do it on our own. Therefore, we pray to the Creator to assist. We ask for assistance. And in addition to that, then it says in this chapter about the Kabbalah tell us about the formation of the worlds, the creation of this world, the descent from eternity, from Ein Sof down to our world. And that's what it gives us. And then it says, now it's your effort that's needed to be able to go up again on this particular path. And this path is laid out, the spiritual birth is laid out through the contraction that you attempt to do on the self so that the vessels shift into a vessel of bestowal. We are the vessels, vessel meaning desire. For bestowal. And as we move up, we'll find out that there's larger vessels that come to us, larger desires, which we can either utilize for ourselves, which gives us, of course, the lovely path of suffering, the path of pain, the path of pushing us in a very uncomfortable way, or we can try to be in partnership with the Creator, because we now know what the spiritual laws are. The spiritual laws are that of love thy neighbor as thyself. So any situation that we find ourselves in, if we can have this picture, am I going to contract myself or not? And through this contraction, the light in us can expand and illuminate our souls within. And then the whole perception of reality changes around us, from that of suffering to that of beauty. And back to you, Sheila.
Yes, okay. I was enjoying every bit of what you were saying. Now, the whole point of this chapter, as I said, is really to kind of explain to us that there is a spiritual construct when you are in the spiritual realm, and there is a construct when you are in the physical realm, and the transformation that we have to take from this physical to get to spiritual force is what this chapter is talking about, because ultimately it's about reconstructing the inner consciousness of a person, inner spirit of a person, to become more in line with love, because the Creator is love. And there is a bit of the chapter which talks about the fact that a person has been descended from the spiritual realm into the physical form does not mean you should not love them in that form that they are. Because once you are back at the lowest level of the spiritual realm, your real spiritual development begins at that point, and it doesn't exonerate you in any way or shape or form for you to challenge the Creator. In fact, you will be tempted to challenge the Creator. In fact, in one part of the book, it says you will have contradictory views. In fact, views that you will complain about the Creator, but at the end of it all, you have to cleave to the Creator, which then means that there's nothing you can do beyond this point other than develop yourself, because once you're back in the spiritual realm, you don't die spiritually. Like in the physical realm, You bath in the physical realm, you descend with this consciousness of self-love for yourself, and you die, the physical body dies and it ends. In the spiritual realm, when you bath, you are going to, there is only one way forward, is ascension, and no way backwards. So therefore, all the challenges that are going to happen, just like you have them in this world, you will have to constantly be working with the Creator for the Creator to help you to go upward. And I like this bit to do with the vessels as well. But I think because of time, perhaps we're not going to go into that. But this bit to do with the clay and the light was mentioned so beautifully that in the end, these are the two things that makes a person. At the end of the day, you can either have a vessel which is animalistic, which is all consciousness for a clothed in all, it's about me and no one else, or you have a vessel that is clothed in love and altruistic, and therefore it is more spiritually inclined. We are aiming in this chapter to move towards the spiritual development. And with that, we end today's review, and we see you not next week, perhaps the week after.
Yeah. Thank you, and bye-bye.